In the dilapidated hallway of dormitory 312, Ethan was sprawled across his bed, a tattered book propped open in front of him. The overhead light flickered intermittently, casting erratic shadows. His roommate, Alex, had been behaving strangely, coming and going at odd hours, disappearing for long stretches of time. Ethan's unease had been growing, but he had brushed it off as a coincidence. A soft knock on the door jolted Ethan from his thoughts. He opened it to find a striking woman with raven black hair and a magnetic gaze. She wore a flowing coat that seemed too sophisticated for this part of town. "Hi," she said, her voice smooth and inviting. "I'm Sophie. I'm a friend of a friend, just visiting. Mind if I come in for a moment?" Ethan, caught off guard but intrigued, nodded and stepped aside. "Sure, come on in." Sophie's eyes darted around the small room before settling on Ethan. "I've noticed something unusual about your roommate," she said, lowering her voice. "I hope you don't think I'm being intrusive, but I've seen him leaving at odd hours. It might be nothing, but I thought you should know." Ethan's brow furrowed. "Alex? I hadn't noticed anything too strange. He's been a bit distant lately, but I just thought he was busy." Sophie's lips curled into a knowing smile. "Sometimes people hide things. It's worth paying attention to." That night, Ethan couldn't shake Sophie's words from his mind. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, his thoughts swirling in paranoia. He decided to keep an eye on Alex's comings and goings. The next evening, Alex mentioned he was going out for a late-night study session. Ethan's curiosity and suspicion got the better of him. He followed Alex through the fog-choked streets, his heart racing with every step. Alex entered an old, abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. Ethan's pulse quickened as he watched from behind a stack of crates. The warehouse was a shadowy maze of broken machinery and shattered glass. Through a grimy window, Ethan saw Alex talking to Sophie. Their voices were low, but the tension in the air was palpable. "What's the plan?" Sophie asked, her voice dripping with cold anticipation. "Just like we discussed," Alex replied. "He's starting to get too suspicious. We need to act soon." A sense of dread clutched at Ethan's chest. He turned to leave but was suddenly grabbed from behind. Sophie's eyes were wild with a twisted kind of excitement. "Thought you'd be following us, did you?" Sophie's voice was like ice. Alex appeared behind her, a smirk on his face. "You should have stayed in your room, Ethan." Ethan struggled, but Sophie and Alex were too strong. They dragged him into the warehouse, his desperate cries echoing through the empty space. When Ethan awoke, he was tied to a chair in a dark, musty room. The only light came from a flickering bulb overhead. Sophie and Alex stood before him, their expressions unreadable. "Why are you doing this?" Ethan croaked, his voice trembling. Sophie leaned closer, her breath hot and acrid. "Why not? We enjoy watching people unravel. You were perfect for our little game. Paranoia is such a delicious thing." Alex stepped forward, his eyes cold and calculating. "You were curious, Ethan. Too curious. We needed someone to complete our game. Your fear, your confusion, it's what drives us." Ethan's heart raced as he struggled against the ropes. "You're insane. Let me go." Sophie's smile was chilling. "Insanity is such a vague term. We simply find pleasure in exploration. And you, my dear Ethan, are our latest experiment." Alex produced a knife from his coat pocket, its blade catching the dim light. "Now, it's time for the final act. I hope you've enjoyed the show." Ethan's eyes widened in terror as Sophie and Alex approached. The cold, merciless reality of his situation sank in. The warehouse, once a backdrop for curiosity and suspense, now became the stage for his worst nightmare. The room filled with the sounds of Ethan's panicked pleas and the twisted laughter of Sophie and Alex. In the eerie silence that followed, only the occasional clink of the knife and Ethan's fading cries could be heard. The old dormitory, once a place of mundane student life, now stood as a grim testament to the psychopathic minds that lurked within its shadows. The thrill of the hunt, the manipulation, and the terror had come to a chilling climax, leaving behind only the echoes of a nightmare made real.